Fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime in Fuego, and if it please you, join me here for a bit of palaver on Hail to Stephen King. That's right, bienvenidos, and yes, welcome to the horror show. You can just call me Fuego for short, and yes, this is the show twice a week where I talk about just all things Cy King, as you can see by the tower of books behind me. That's right, El Rey is in fact my favorite author of all time, as if you couldn't tell. And yes, I have been going for, this is the 130th episode of this program that just began its third year. Crazy to me, absolutely crazy. And this is a last minute subject that I already had an episode filmed for today. It was a new installment of films that forgot the face of their father, because honestly, just like a turd kind of, you know, circling the drain about to go on down the bowl, yeah. I was gonna do Creepshow 3, and the reason I was gonna do Creepshow 3 was because of the fact that we just finally started to get some details about, yeah, the fact that the first story adaptation for the new Greg Nicotero produced Shudder releasing Creepshow television series was announced, and it's going to be Survivor Type, which is from Skeleton Crew. Really, really weird story about self-cannibalism. Let's just put it that way. It's nuts. It's about this this shady surgeon who's trying to smuggle drugs, and he gets washed on a deserted island, and there's nothing to eat, so guess what he starts eating? Anyway, so originally I had that episode all together because Films That Forgot the Face of Their Father is a long series that I've been doing for like a year or so now, and there's only a couple entries left. There's that. There is the Mangler sequels and the Children of the Corn sequels, and those, at the request of my co-hosts here on the Horror Show, Cecil Laird and Marsha Parker, those are going to be done as group reviews, and they're not going to be Hail to Stephen King episodes. So anytime from now on and going forward, when I do something with, like, you know, other people that's Cy King related, other people on the show, it's not going to be a Hail episode official. It's just going to be kind of considerable bonus content and stuff like that. But as I was thinking about Survivor Type finally getting an adaptation, I just got to pondering the fact that we now officially, in the year of 19, have two different anthology outlets that could potentially be adapting Stephen King short stories. And we know that one is for sure going to do it, and that being the Creepshow series. And there's also going to be stuff from the guy who wrote Bubba Hotep, and also stuff, at least the other confirmed author is Cy King's son Joe Hill, who I've been doing lots of coverage on here. And that's another thing is we had some crossover episodes where it was just me reviewing Joe Hill you know, novels and stuff like that, like The Fireman, Strange Weather, and those were considered Hail to Stephen King specials, and they were filmed on the Horror Show set. I don't feel like I've been giving Joe his just due in those situations. So from now on, anytime we're covering something Joe Hill related, the upcoming reviews that Cecil and I are doing for the Cape, for the Cape prequel, the Cape 1968 or 69, something like that, and also for a story called Thumbprint that was adapted into a graphic novel, and then we're also going to be doing Lock and Key. Those are going to be called Run to the Hill, and it's going to be just its own separate special thing, so lots of fun coverage coming here in the year of 19 for Cy King's son, and he has set some of his stuff on different levels of the tower, and you know, there's like a Nazla Cola reference in The Fireman, and you know, there's been nods and winks and stuff like Nosferatu and various others to the fact that he's aware of his father's universe, and sometimes things are set on different levels of the playing field his father kind of constructed. But man, Joe Hill is just so damn good in his own right that I don't personally think it's very fair for us to, you know, label anytime we're covering one of his books as anything Hail to Stephen King related, because, you know, it's just Yeah. So with all of that out of the way, I got to thinking, especially as I remember one of the earlier Hail to Stephen King episodes. Shout out to Rob, because he was the one who made the suggestion. It was Most Wanted Adaptations, and I only covered novels, you know? I didn't cover short form stuff like any of the novellas or, you know, short stories or anything like that. And I basically went through a lot of the usual suspects. Eyes of the Dragon, The Talisman. The Talisman is apparently in the process of finally getting adapted, presumably. But then again, they announce all these things and then they never come to fruition a lot of the time. Another one that's not been announced that I adore, and in the midst of the Time's Up and the Me Too movement, Shizzle would crush, and that's Rose Madder. I mentioned that during that video. Doomickey, another one that has not been announced for an adaptation. From a Buick 8, that's another. If you basically want to hear all of my suggestions for that, just go to the Stephen King themed playlist that we have here on The Horror Show, and you can get all that information. But I started thinking, since we have Creepshow, and then also Jordan Peele's production of the new Twilight Zone. It's going to be the 4th iteration of the Twilight Zone now. It's like every 15, 20 years or so, they decide to bring it back and relaunch it. But the badass thing about that is that we know they're going to be doing the Terror at 20,000 feet or whatever the hell it is, the one with the gremlin on the side that they did in the Twilight Zone movie, and then they also did originally with William Shatner in black and white on the first incarnation of the show. They're going to be remaking that again with Adam Scott in the role of the person who's on the plane who thinks he sees this creature out on the wing. So I have a feeling that besides remaking some things, they will presumably be going to noteworthy horror authors to adapt stuff, namely Stephen King. So we have that possibility, like I'm saying here, guys. Stephen King short stories and, you know, novellas of the shorter variety, I would imagine, could potentially be, these could become episodes of TV. And, you know, we've seen a few adapted as, you know, so like the Nightmares and Dreamscapes television series, which, you know, was kind of hit and miss for me. And then Cy King stuff has been done on, the 80s Twilight Zone, and it was done on Tales from the Dark Side and, you know, Monsters and things like that. So, I'm excited at this prospect. And so what I wanted to do was just rattle off a bunch of shorts that I personally think would be awesome adaptations. And this is a lot of things that it's tough because King has this Dollar Baby program, right? And that's where he allows independent filmmakers to option one of his shorts for $1. And that's all that they need to pay. A lot of time he doesn't even cash the check. I mean, never did for Shawshank, and that was a feature film that's gone on to be one of the most renowned of all time in as far as the AFI, American filmmaking ever. So some of these I can't really say because they have been adapted as Dollar Babies already. The awesome Sci-Fi I Am the Doorway has been done a few times, but if they could, I would love to see that done on a proper budget. Same with One for the Road, which is you know, the kind of epilogue to Salem's Lot. That was done with Reggie Bannister, actually, from the Phantasm series, and done pretty well, actually. The Woman in the Room was done by Frank Darabont. That's one that I would love to see redone. The Breathing Method, that's the 4th and only unadapted novella, and I think it's the shortest, if I'm not mistaken, from different seasons, and so that's one that I would love to see done, although that's apparently being developed into a feature film to be released in 2020. Same with The Man in the Black Suit, which I think is in Everything's Eventual, if I'm not mistaken. They say they're turning that into a movie, but it's such a short story that I would love to see done about this kid, he's fishing out in the woods, and this creepy guy who may or not be Randall Flagg just walks up and starts having palaver and creeping the hell out of him. But they're saying they're making that into a feature. Same with the 10 O'Clock People! I love the 10 O'Clock People, about those who are trying to quit smoking but still have just the right amount of nicotine in them to see that it's almost like a They Live type thing. I've talked about this short story countless times here on the Hail to Stephen King program. They see the true identity of a lot of these crazed bat-like creatures that are in prominent positions of power all throughout the world, both at the local, national, and whatever levels. The Things They Left Behind, I believe this was also done as a Dollar Baby, as was Willa. Those are two of my absolute favorites from Just After Sunset. They are very sad. The Things They Left Behind is about the survivors' guilt kind of thing, that this guy who had a premonition about not going to work the day the Twin Towers came down. And then Willa is one of my absolute all-time most hauntingly romantic short stories that Cy King has ever written. apparently it was done as a dollar baby just this past year in 2018, and I found out about this today. I hope that there is some way I can track down this short film, because, man, if I was to option a dollar baby and try to make one of these into something, I mean, damn, you better believe I would push for Willa. New York Times at bargain rates, that's another one that is apparent. It's from Just After Sunset as well. Deals with 9/11-y type things, and you know, getting phone calls from if I recall correctly, getting phone calls from people that yeah, that are. I think the wife is like getting phone calls from the husband who died in 9/11, and he's warning her about stuff. That's apparently being developed into a television series. And man, the little green god of agony would be so damn good as a Creepshow episode. I think it would be just exceptional. It was done as a motion comic, and you can find it on Stephen King's website, stephenking.com. It's from Bizarre Bad Dreams, his most recent collection. That one is about this guy who goes to kind of meet with this dude who was in a plane crash, this supremely rich guy who is convinced there's this like little demon inside of him that is not allowing him to go through the rehabbing process of getting his limbs going again properly. So those are all the asterisks, because those are all stories that have been adapted in some capacity, and so I guess I can't really throw that in my official rankings and stuff. But so I don't make this go on forever. I'm just going to give a really quick rundown, everybody, and if a brief description about any of these short stories like piques your interest or something, or if you have one that I don't mention here, because there's a few that have not been adapted that I don't mention here just because I don't really, one, maybe I'm not the biggest fan of them, and two, I just don't know if they would fit in more of the thriller, sci-fi, you know, a little bit of horror that we get from a series like The Twilight Zone, or more of the gruesome and slightly comedic range that we are presumably going to get from something like Creepshow. Because if they're doing Survivor type, man, that's going to be darkly, grotesquely comedic, and that really gives you an idea about how they're going to push boundaries on Shudder for this Nicotero produced show, and that's the one he's going to direct apparently too. So that's kind of cool news. An unreleased short story that I just checked out recently, The Blue Air Compressor, about this crazy author who's like, he like rents this cabin out in the middle of nowhere, and he ends up using an air compressor to villainous means against the woman, if I recall, who is renting the property to him. That's kind of nuts. I Know What You Need is one that I think this could work either for probably a little bit better with The Twilight Zone, for the sheer fact that it's about this outcast guy. It's collected in Night Shift, and he's just always thinking a step ahead when he's charming this girl, and they're both at college together and stuff. And it's more of like a creepy thriller kind of thing. I think that one would be cool. Man, but the two money stories that I would love to see done, and they would definitely both have to be Creepshow entries. Jerusalem's Lot, it's the origin stories of the town that, you know, Salem's Lot takes place in, and it's Lovecraft. It's crazy, deals with inbreeding and all kinds of disgusting things, and, you know, it's got some nods to even, just in the form that it's written, it's got some nods to, you know, Bram Stoker's Dracula, in the fact that it's like letters and, you know, stuff going back and forth and between, you know, this main character and his friend who's like, you know, a ways away. So that would be badass. But the one that I always talk about, and it has been done in the Secretary of Dreams, which is the Cemetery Dance Awesome collection that they put together, which had Glenn Chatborn. Oh, I hope I'm not forgetting your name, man. But amazing artist from New England. And it was adapted there, but I need a gray matter adaptation in my life so badly, and I think this would be of the perfect, slimy, disgusting variety for the Creepshow television series. It's about this guy who's on disability, and he gets a bad can of beer with some green slime on it, and he starts transforming, and his son is like at the mercy of his changes. It's disgusting. Nona is another one. If we're going to jump to another story from Skeleton Crew after already mentioning Survivor type, Nona is one that actually, if I recall correctly, you have Ace Merrill at one point in this story. That same Ace Merrill who was in The Body, who was in, I know he's at least mentioned in The Sundog, and he's a prominent Droog in Needful Things, but It's about this guy who picks up this girl who's kind of hitchhiking, if I recall correctly, and she wants to go to this mausoleum, and she's like, there is something wrong with her. I think that could, this is another one that maybe would be better fit for the Twilight Zone, but I think it could also go for Creepshow. If you want some sci-fi, the Jaunt could be amazing. I think that would definitely be a little bit more well-suited for the Twilight Zone in comparison with Creepshow. Whereas the Monkey, which both of those are from Skeleton Crew, the Monkey, and if you have the cover of Skeleton Crew with the with him with the cymbal clapping and stuff, there's apparently this monkey, if it's in your possession, like starts people that are connected to you, like family members and close friends and stuff like that, they start dying in weird fashion. There was also a Supernatural episode that was kind of like that. But yeah, the Jaunt, amazing sci-fi, and about how like teleporting in like centuries and centuries ahead of time is now a thing, but you're supposed to remain unconscious for the entirety of it, and it's about just the craziness that ensues where this guy, he's not knocked out for the entirety of it. It's pretty badass. The Reach is one that I think would be, first and foremost, it's one of the best Psy King short stories ever. Very much like Willa, it's haunting and so very sad and just hits you in the feels hardcore. It's about this old woman who has been on this island for the entirety of her life, and she's about to die, and she decides it's finally time for her to cross the icy reach to the mainland, and it's like a light flashing before your eyes kind of thing. It's beautiful, it's sad, it's amazing. Yeah, another one that I believe is in Skeleton Crew, which I think would be dope, and this would probably be a little more Twilight Zone. It's Mrs. Todd's Shortcut, and it's about this woman who just cruises around on the streets in the Castle Rock area, and she is able to make just ridiculous time because of the fact that she is like jumping through thinnies and just going through on one end and popping up on another, and just this trans-dimensional stuff. That would definitely be very suited, in my opinion, for the Twilight Zone show. Popsy, another one that I think would be fantastic, and it's about this guy who goes to this mall and he's trying to kidnap this small kid who may or may not be a vampire. I think that one would probably be a little bit better for for the Creepshow. Sneakers is one that I initially put on this list. It's from Nightmares and Dreamscapes. It's about this sleazy record executive, and he keeps going to the bathroom for like a number of days and seeing these sneakers in the same stall day after day after day, and he eventually starts seeing flies like around them and stuff. That would probably be a little bit better for Creepshow. Man, the two novellas that have not been adapted though, from what is it, 4 Past Midnight? Yes, 4 Past Midnight. So they've done 2 of those. They've done Secret Window, Secret Garden, and then they've done the Langoliers, obviously. But I want adaptations so badly of The Library Policeman and The Sundog. The Sundog being a Castle Rock story, kind of a prequel to Needful Things, and it's basically about this kid who finds this Polaroid camera that he starts taking photos with it, and as opposed to taking photos of like what he's intending, there's like this dog that's getting like rabid looking dog getting closer and closer and closer. Ace Merrill's uncle is a part of the story. It's really weird. And then The Library Policeman is about this guy who has had this weird fear about if you never returned your library books that the library policeman would come after you and stuff, and he's going to research a speech, and that he's new in town, and then he goes to this library and sees this old woman manning the desk, and apparently like she has been dead for X amount of time. And it's a very layered and nuanced story. I think it would make an amazing episode of either Creepshow or Twilight Zone. This is one that could really go both ways. From Everything's Eventual, I feel like the title story could be done amazingly about this dude Dinky who has this power of like, it's almost like persuasive push, you know, that is that's used by a company that ties in with Dark Tower stuff without spoiling anything. And he's actually a character that shows up in the Tower in the 7th book, but maybe it's just too tied in with that mythology for it to be a standalone thing, but I still think it would be pretty badass. Let's see, as I'm jumping to the second half of my list here, Harvey's Dream is an interesting one, as is All That You Love Will Be Carried Away, and this is where a few of these stories in Just After Sunset really start to kind of seep together, unfortunately. Boy, Graduation Afternoon, that's one that really sticks out to me for the sheer fact that this is a very, very short entry about, and with the constant tension with Russia and everything, this is one that could be really creepy on either the Twilight Zone show that Jordan Peele's doing or Nicotero's Creepshow. And it's about, you know, a graduation party at this, you know, ritzy place in, I believe it's, they're in upstate New York, and it's these teenagers and stuff, and then they see in the far, far distance a nuke hitting, hitting New York City, and they're in just the paranoia or the panic that ensues. It's a very short story, so that would be perfect for a little 30-minute, you know, kind of entry here. Mute is another one that I think is really good. Both Mute and Rest Stop I think are pretty awesome. Rest Stop is about this guy who he pulls into this rest stop, if I recall correctly, and he's about to kill himself, but he overhears these two, or no, he's not about to kill himself. He overhears these two people arguing, this couple, and he basically has to shift gears into like his other persona that he kind of lives vicariously through in some of the stories that he's written, and yeah, he basically goes and diffuses this fight between these two. So it's not really got a supernatural element. Maybe that would definitely be more Twilight Zone, I guess. And then Mute being one where this guy, he goes to this priest and he has this immense amount of guilt. So I would say this one would be Twilight Zone. And he has picked up this hitchhiker and he tries talking to him the whole time, and you know, just, and the guy's mute, not talking and everything. And he has this guilt, and he's talking to the priest about it because he wonders maybe if he aided and abetted some like homicidal, crazy maniac. So yeah, I guess in that case, that could be a Creepshow episode. But Creepshow, all of that stuff really had some sort of gruesome aspect to it. So maybe a short story like A Very Tight Place, that if I recall correctly is also in Just After Sunset. God damn it, just adapt everything Just After Sunset. They're already working on an end series, or else I would say throw that one out there. They've already done that as a motion comic and as a Marvel comic, which was really amazing. And that's about just the insanity being something that's contagious. I talk about that story all the time on here. But A Very Tight Place is about kind of like a land dispute between these two rich dudes, and one of them like locks the other one in a porta potty and like just terrorizes him. That's pretty gruesome and crazy. You know, I really would like to see Throttle done. It was already adapted kind of loosely into a comic book with Cy King, and the comic was called Road Rage. Yeah, I guess if that was done as a comic book, already, it's about this older aging biker and his son that he has kind of a contentious relationship with, and there's some people they're feuding with that are like, they have ties to a meth lab, and I don't know, I guess that would probably be more of a Creepshow kind of thing. But once again, there's no supernatural aspect. It was written with King and his son Joe Hill. You know, would be really dope. It was originally an ebook that was for the Kindle, and then it eventually saw a proper release, audiobook release, collected in Bizarre Bad Dreams. But yeah, this is one about this guy who finds that, like, he's very old school, kind of like me. He doesn't want an e-reader. He loves his physical books and everything. And you know, that's just what he wants to remain with. And you know, I can't blame the guy, but he ends up finally breaking down after having this kind of breakup transpire, or at least a parting of the ways with his lady friend who works at the same university as him. She's a coach for one of the sports teams, and you know, he's an English professor, and so it's the whole opposites attract thing and whatnot, and she's very much for him embracing technology. He refutes it, pushes it away, and when he finally does get one of these readers to show her that he's with the times and he can change and he's not so like hard-headed and everything, well, lo and behold, he gets this crazy pink one that can, like, he's able to read stuff in the past, stuff in the future, stuff on different levels of the tower. Low men show up at one time. So I guess maybe you could do this in a similar fashion that you could do Everything's Eventual, where I guess you could just, almost like with the Hearts in Atlantis movie, you just kind of cut out some of the tower tie-ins and stuff so people don't get as confused. But I guess that would work. I just love this story enough that I would love to see it adapted in some form. This one would definitely be more Twilight Zone. It would not fit into the Creepshow sort of thing. Fair Extension is another one that I would love to see, and I think this is one that could go either way, but would probably be better suited for the Twilight Zone. This is about this rich, successful guy who is terminally ill. He gets off a plane, and he's in like the dairy area, and he encounters this guy who you know, may or may not be like a flag pseudonym, maybe the devil, something, who knows, and he bargains with him to have all of these years of his life extended, but the extension is, it essentially entails him having to choose somebody else to take on his terminal affliction, and he picks his best friend since high school, or since college I should say, who like stole his girlfriend and, you know, kind of screwed him over for success and whatnot, and who he has this great relationship with, but obviously still harbors a lot of negativity. And then there's Under the Weather, which is also from Bizarre Bad Dreams, that I think would, it's another sad one, you know. This would definitely be a Twilight Zone episode. It's about this guy who is caring for his sick wife, and he's just in denial about the extent of how sick she is, and there's an interesting twist about like his perceptions and things like that. Really dig that story, but it's another one of those that'll really, you know, tug on your heartstrings. Mile 81. Mile 81. It's another Christine, Uncle Otto's truck, you know, from a Buick 8 type vibe about and also Nosferatu would fall into that category too, about a vehicle with a life of its own and a hunger, and this young kid who basically runs afoul of it when he hides out at this like abandoned property and is like drinking old alcohol and stuff. And then boy, this story is gruesome, and this is one that I think would be amazing as a Creepshow episode. Damn, would that be awesome. Boy, I'm nearing the end of my list, and I know this is, I've just been throwing so much information at y'all. I mean, goddamn, sorry, I was just going in like a published order to mention all of these. You know, a couple great Twilight Zone episodes. A Face in the Crowd is one that has never been collected, regrettably, and it was written, co-written, I should say, with Stuart Onan, who did the Faithful adaptation, with the Faithful, not adaptation, coverage, I should say, when the Boston Red Sox broke the curse and won the World Series. He's a sports writer for the Boston something. But Human King, basically, this is a story that has a very, it's got a lot of echoes of The Reach to it, in kind of a, this guy is at home and he's watching this baseball game, and he starts seeing all these different faces in the crowd of friends of his that have long been dead. And, you know, is his life flashing before his eyes? Is he dreaming? What is going on? This would be a killer Twilight Zone episode, definitely not in the Creepshow camp. And Afterlife is the same thing. This is one where this guy has this pleasant death, you know, and as pleasant as death can be, but, I mean, it's serene and very just an essence of closure in the fact that, you know, he's at his deathbed, but, you know, family and loved ones and stuff are all around him, and then he ends up in this waiting room, and he is basically given the chance of, you know, going on to, you know, whatever the next thing is without spoiling stuff, or just jumping back and reliving the same life and making the same mistakes and so on and so forth, and having no recollection of this dissertation that goes on in the waiting room of the afterlife. This would be a great Twilight Zone episode. I would love to see this adapted. Summer Thunder would definitely be another one that, yeah, I think would be pretty dope as, you know, maybe this one could go as a Creepshow episode, but it's just more of that somber tone that would be befitting of the Twilight Zone. This is where the nuclear, it's basically like a sequel to Graduation Afternoon, in the fact that all the bombs hit and the radiation is spreading and a lot of people are dying, and there is this dude and his dog and this older guy that he has a friendship with, and they're all dying of radiation poisoning, and it's just really sad and a ruminating story, and just, I think it would make a great Twilight Zone episode. And to wrap things up here, another one that I think would be really dope would be Obits. This is one very similar in some aspects to Everything's Eventual, in the fact that this guy who is an aspiring writer ends up with this tabloid of sorts, and he realizes that it's almost got like echoes of Early Edition and stuff as well, in the fact that if he writes an obituary for somebody, even if they're not dead, they die in the fashion in which he puts it to paper. Simple concept is that. It's got some dark humor to it, very effective. So this one probably could could end up in the Creepshow territory, and I think it would be really, really rad. And another one that I think could also go both ways, I forgot to mention it earlier and it just came to mind. It's called The Reploids, and this is an unreleased short story that I did an episode of Hail to Stephen King reviewing. It's from Night Visions 5, I believe it is, but it's essentially, this guy is on the Tonight Show, and, well, it's, without spoiling too much, he realizes very, very soon that he's, like, not on the Carson Tonight Show that he thinks he is, and it deals with alternate dimensions and, you know, basically ending up in a dimension that you're not meant to be in, and the nuances and the differences and stuff. So this could be darkly comedic. This is another one that, without spoiling much, but I really recommend The Reploids. It's not like gonna blow your mind or anything, but it's very much one of those earlier shorts where King was exploring the ideas of just twinny-verses that are very, very similar to our own, except for, like, you see, like, a difference on currency or something like that. You know, you see that, like in Dark Tower 4, you know, that, okay, this is not the Topeka, we're not in Kansas anymore, this is not my Topeka, Kansas. You know, you see different car companies and different soda brands and different sports teams in the cities that you're, you know, used to seeing them in and stuff like that. So The Reploids, I think, is another one. I know I gave you guys a massive amount, and I mean, look at this. I had all of these notes, and then I had all of these notes, and then a few others that they say are in, you know, various bits of development. You know, Death of Jack Hamilton, Home Delivery, you know, about kind of a zombie apocalypse-y sort of thing, and then Beach World would be another rad one. That's another kind of futuristic one. So, I mean, yeah, I gave you a lot to wrap your heads around, but what did I miss? What do you think would be, you know, what that I didn't mention do you think would be better suited for Jordan Peele's The Twilight Zone that's rebooting, or for, you know, Creepshow that is rebooting with Greg Nicotero from The Walking Dead and with hundreds of other, you know, films and TV shows and stuff to his credit? What do you think would be a rad spot for an adaptation of a Cy King short story? And also, I thought about including Joe Hill, but I knew this video would be way too long if I did that. If you're Joe Hill fans, what from 20th Century Ghosts? I mean, obviously, I would say right off the bat that, yeah, there's a couple from Strange Weather that I think could be, well, no, let's not get into that. If there is something you guys would love to see from Joe Hill, because we don't know what's going to be adapted from his neck of the woods on here, you know, what could be badass. So, in any event, I have been Jaime and Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, doing some new Infuegotainment coverage. I threw up episodes about my favorite films, non-horror, of 2018 and my most anticipated of 2019, and there is some upcoming, yes, live programming, more reviews, both a retro Fuego review and a fresca Fuego review of newer stuff as well. So you can look forward to all of that. Please subscribe, and if you haven't liked, shared, subscribed here on The Horror Show, ring that bell. As we start the 6th season of the show, there will be some changes coming through the pipeline, and more material showing up on our Patreon. So if you have any interest in that, please be sure to check that out. We greatly appreciate it. But at least for now, through the month of January, we are still continuing with our 2, sometimes 3 episodes a day. All of the scarific content that you can handle under the horror umbrella. And we also just got a very exciting announcement about some content that we are going to be doing for a new upstart streaming horror channel called Terror TV, where we are going to be subletting some of our content and creating some exciting new stuff as well. So there will be an official announcement about that coming very, very soon. We fielded our 2nd meeting of game planning and just trying to get the vision and intention all good. So I guess that is the end of the road, at least for now. I want to remind everybody that The Eyes of the Dragon is the January book of the month, and I am going to be doing a live discussion, spoilers discussion, all about that amazing book at the end of the month. And in Joe Hill news, I just read this the other day, the 3 unused scripts for the Tales from the Dark Side television series that did not come to be, but I'm going to be reviewing this weekend for an upcoming episode of run to the hill. So I've been Fuego, y'all have been amazing, and until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, I say hasta luego, sin amigos, constant viewers and readers alike. Say thank you for gracing me with your presence here, and until next time, remember, stay scared and read Stephen King. Any of his anthologies are good, but honestly, as I always say, just after sunset, baby.